The courtroom was eerily quiet. The judge's gavel struck decisively, pronouncing the verdict that would forever alter Daniel Brooks' life.
Guilty.
A respected officer with over a decade of service, Daniel remained handcuffed, his gaze fixed on the floor despite his unwavering declarations of innocence. The jury had decided against him. The fabricated evidence he believed was sufficient to incarcerate him. However, the true devastation wasn't the impending prison time. It was the realization that he would have to part ways with Rex, his devoted K-9 partner. Rex, the German Shepherd, sat towards the rear of the courtroom, his keen eyes locked onto Daniel. More than just a partner, Rex had been Daniel's steadfast companion through countless perilous situations. Now, as Daniel confronted the darkest chapter of his life, the prospect of never seeing Rex again was unbearable. As the judge prepared to leave, Daniel's voice pierced the heavy silence. "Your Honor," he began, his voice wavering. "Before I'm taken away, I have one final request. May I say farewell to Rex?" The courtroom buzzed with surprise. The judge paused, studying Daniel intently before finally nodding with understanding. 3 minutes, he granted. Once Rex was released, the dog darted towards Daniel, his paws clicking loudly on the courtroom floor. Daniel fell to his knees, embracing Rex tightly. "I'm so sorry, buddy," he murmured, tears welling in his eyes. "I failed you. I won't be here anymore." Rex whined softly, pressing against Daniel's chest. Suddenly, Rex's demeanor shifted. He became tense, his nose working fervently against Daniel's jacket. Tugging at the fabric, Rex barked sharply, disrupting the courtroom's solemnity and capturing everyone's attention. "What's the dog doing?" the judge inquired, his brow furrowed. Rex intensified his efforts, his barks resonating through the room. A cautious officer stepped forward to inspect Daniel's jacket. The atmosphere grew thick with tension. Suddenly, a metallic sound echoed as a small device clattered to the floor. It was a voice recorder. The prosecutor's face drained of color as he approached, his voice trembling. "This doesn't hold any weight," he declared, attempting to regain control. But Rex barked again, unwavering in his alertness. The significance of the device was unmistakable. Daniel stared at the recorder, his heart racing. After weeks of despair, a glimmer of hope emerged. Could this be the evidence he needed? Feel the bond between Daniel and Rex. Imagine what's yet to unfold in this intense and heartfelt narrative. To uncover what's on that recorder and its potential impact, hit the like button and subscribe. The next exciting chapter is just beginning. The courtroom remained still, eyes fixed on the recording device gleaming under the bright lights. Rex stayed firm beside Daniel, his sharp barks slicing through the air as if urging attention. "Pick it up," the judge commanded firmly. The nearest officer hesitated before retrieving the device, holding it up with a puzzled expression. "What is this?" the judge demanded, directing his gaze at the prosecutor, who began to perspire. The prosecutor cleared his throat, visibly shaken. "Your Honor, this is irrelevant. It wasn't part of the submitted evidence," he stammered. "It's been tampered with." The judge interrupted, his expression stern. "Officer, play the device." The officer fumbled, his hands shaking as he pressed play. Static filled the room, followed by muffled conversations. Everyone leaned in, straining to hear. Then, a shocking revelation emerged. "Fabricate the evidence," a gruff voice declared. "It's obvious no one will doubt it. Brooks' spotless record makes him an ideal scapegoat. Execute the plan." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Daniel's heart sank and then raced. He recognized the voice. It was his trusted former supervisor, Lieutenant Mark Donovan. "That's enough," the prosecutor exclaimed, moving towards the officer with the recorder. The judge forcefully struck his gavel, his authoritative tone halting the prosecutor. Daniel was in disbelief. The recording exposed the entire scheme, the planted evidence, and his framing. Rex, calm beside him, emitted a low growl, mirroring Daniel's silent rage. The judge reclined in his chair, his demeanor grim. "This trial isn't concluded," he announced. "Secure the device as new evidence. We're reopening the case immediately." A spark of hope ignited within Daniel as he was led away. Rex watched loyally, his eyes reflecting unwavering support. Daniel glanced back at Rex, silently vowing to fight the injustice. In the stark holding cell, Daniel sat on the cold bench, his mind racing with the day's events. Rex's instincts had uncovered the truth, a setup that served as Daniel's lifeline. Yet the revelation also meant betrayal. Lieutenant Mark Donovan, his mentor for years, was the mastermind behind it all. Daniel's fists clenched, questioning the extent of the corruption. Meanwhile, in the judge's chambers, tension was palpable. The judge replayed the recording, the voices unmistakable. Lieutenant Donovan's authoritative tone alongside another unfamiliar voice, revealing a deliberate conspiracy. Determined, the judge summoned Donovan to his office immediately. Donovan had been monitoring the courtroom to ensure Daniel's sentencing proceeded without a hitch. However, the judge's sudden summons unsettled him. He adjusted his tie and followed the officer down the hallway. Inside the chambers, the judge's expression remained unreadable as Donovan entered. "You're summoned, Your Honor," Donovan stated, attempting to maintain composure despite the nervous glance at the recorder. "I am," the judge responded, leaning forward. "Care to explain this?" He tapped the recorder. Donovan's confident facade faltered momentarily before he masked it with feigned confusion. "I don't understand, Your Honor," he replied evenly. The judge played the recording again. Donovan's face paled, but he quickly recovered. "This is ridiculous," he insisted. "It could be anyone's voice. You can't seriously believe." "I do believe," the judge interrupted sharply. "This is evidence of a crime. Multiple crimes, in fact." Before Donovan could respond, 2 officers entered. Panic flashed in his eyes. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "You're being detained for questioning," the judge declared firmly. "You're now a suspect in obstruction of justice and evidence tampering." As the officers led a protesting Donovan away, the judge sighed deeply. The corruption was unraveling swiftly, and Daniel's ordeal was far from over. The discovery of the recording had sent shockwaves through the entire department, leading to Lieutenant Donovan's arrest. Rumors of widespread corruption began to circulate among the officers. Meanwhile, Daniel remained unaware of the brewing storm, his thoughts consumed by Rex, the K-9 who had uncovered the crucial device. Daniel pondered what other secrets Rex might reveal. Elsewhere, Rex was moved to the department's K-9 unit for assessment. Officer Emily Thompson, a close colleague of Daniel's, volunteered to care for Rex until the case was settled. Rex appeared restless, pacing his kennel and occasionally barking sharply. "He senses something's wrong," Emily muttered, observing him from outside. She knelt down, meeting Rex's eyes. "Don't worry, Rex. We'll get to the bottom of this." As she stood, she noticed Rex's nose pressed against the gate, sniffing her jacket intently. Her intuition told her something was amiss. After a moment's hesitation, Emily opened the kennel door. "All right, boy," she said, taking Rex's leash. "Let's see what you're trying to tell us." She led Rex to Daniel's locker in the department's storage area. Immediately, Rex began sniffing and pawing at a lower compartment. Emily's heart raced as she unlocked and opened it. Inside, beneath some folded uniforms, lay a small, unmarked envelope. Trembling, she retrieved it and opened it. Inside were grainy but incriminating photographs depicting Lieutenant Donovan meeting with a known criminal. A document behind the photos detailed transactions implicating Donovan in a bribery scheme connected to Daniel's case. Emily stared at the evidence, her chest tightening. "Rex," she whispered, her voice breaking, "you've found the smoking gun." Understanding the gravity of the situation, Emily promptly contacted the judge's office. The photos and documents, combined with the recorder Rex had discovered, unequivocally pointed to Donovan's guilt. Yet Emily knew this wasn't a standalone issue. If Donovan had orchestrated the setup, others were likely involved. Rex remained by her side, his steady presence providing comfort. "Daniel was right," she said softly, petting Rex. "You're the best partner anyone could ask for." In the evidence room, Emily spread the incriminating photos on the desk. The burden of the evidence weighed heavily on her. Lieutenant Donovan wasn't merely corrupt. He was part of a larger, more sinister network. The documents Rex helped uncover revealed connections to other high-ranking officials, unexplained payments, and a trail of manipulation extending far beyond Daniel's case. Glancing at Rex, who sat alert beside her, Emily felt the depth of the situation. "This isn't just about Daniel," she murmured. "It's much more extensive." Recognizing the severity, Emily contacted the judge directly. Within an hour, she presented the evidence. The judge's expression darkened as he reviewed the documents and photos. "This is more significant than I anticipated," he acknowledged gravely. "If these are accurate, Daniel Brooks isn't merely innocent. He's a casualty of a department-wide conspiracy." An emergency hearing was ordered. News of the case's revival sent ripples through the precinct. Officers whispered in corridors, tensions mounting as suspicions intensified. Several who had testified against Daniel began to show signs of nervousness, aware that their actions might now be scrutinized. Back in his cell, Daniel was unexpectedly summoned. The sudden activity in the jail's holding area quickened his pulse. He was escorted to a secure room where Emily awaited him alongside the judge. Upon seeing the folder of evidence and Rex by Emily's side, Daniel felt a surge of hope and disbelief. "This just arrived," the judge announced, sliding the documents towards Daniel. "It proves Lieutenant Donovan's corruption and, more importantly, that the evidence used to convict you is fabricated." Daniel's hands trembled as he reviewed the papers, the photos, records, and notes detailing Donovan's manipulation of the case. It was all there. "Does this mean?" Daniel began, his voice cracking. The judge nodded firmly. "It means you're free to go. But our work isn't finished. There are more individuals involved, and we need your assistance to expose them." Daniel knelt, embracing Rex once more. "You saved me, Rex," he whispered. "You saved me again." As Rex wagged his tail, the room filled with palpable relief. Yet, Daniel knew this was merely the beginning. Whoever orchestrated this went beyond Donovan. There were deeper layers to uncover, and Daniel was determined to reveal the entire truth. What do you believe will happen next? Will Daniel uncover the full extent of this conspiracy? Share your thoughts in the comments. Daniel exited the courthouse as a free man for the first time, but the weight of what lay ahead was more burdensome than the chains he had just shed. Reporters swarmed the steps, demanding answers about his release, the reopened case, and the corruption scandal within the department. Daniel paid them no mind, his attention fixed solely on Rex, who trotted faithfully beside him. The sight of his loyal K-9 companion rekindled a spark of hope amidst the chaos. Inside the courthouse, the judge had established a special task force to probe the expanding web of corruption. Emily, now a vital member of the team, spearheaded the efforts. The photos, recordings, and financial records Rex had helped uncover pointed to a vast network of bribery and evidence manipulation involving multiple officers and external entities. Lieutenant Donovan was merely the beginning. "Daniel," Emily called, approaching him outside the courthouse. "We need your expertise. No one knows this department better than you." Daniel hesitated, his jaw tightening. His entire career had been built on trust and belief in the system's integrity. That trust was now shattered. Yet, as he looked down at Rex, whose calm and determined eyes reminded him of his initial reasons for joining the force, he made his decision. "I'm in," he declared. "But I'm not doing this for the department. I'm fighting for the truth and for every officer striving to uphold what's right." The investigation commenced earnestly. Emily and Daniel worked relentlessly, assembling timelines, cross-referencing cases, and interviewing officers who had closely worked with Donovan. Some were cooperative, while others remained tight-lipped, their silence raising further suspicions. Rex proved invaluable, sniffing out hidden files and leading them to overlooked evidence. During a late-night search of Donovan's office and locker, Emily discovered a list of names, officers, local politicians, and known criminals, linked to dubious payments and unresolved crimes. The deeper they delved, the more perilous the trail became. It was evident that this was about more than just Daniel's case. It was about an entire network of individuals who had abused their power to conceal crimes and eliminate anyone who posed a threat. "Daniel," Emily said, her voice laden with concern as she examined a file, "if we push forward, we'll be making powerful enemies." Daniel looked up from his work. "We've already ruffled their feathers," he responded, "but I won't stop until the entire truth is revealed." Rex let out a soft bark, as if in agreement. Daniel reached down to pet the dog, his determination solidifying. They weren't merely seeking justice. They were fighting for everyone who had been silenced, betrayed, or falsely accused. The task force operated around the clock. Evidence filled every available desk in the small conference room that served as their headquarters. Now exonerated, Daniel immersed himself in the work. The more they uncovered, the more convoluted the corruption became. Falsified bank statements, manipulated police reports, and intercepted communications all pointed to a massive conspiracy extending well beyond Lieutenant Donovan. Emily placed a hefty folder in front of Daniel, her expression serious. "We've identified at least 6 other officers involved," she informed him. "Some hold high-ranking positions, and it gets worse. We have evidence linking them to organized crime." Daniel leaned back, his mind racing. These aren't just rogue officers acting for personal gain. This is a coordinated operation blending departmental corruption with external criminal enterprises. "If this is as extensive as it appears, we can't manage it alone," he continued. "We need federal assistance." "But not yet." Emily shook her head. "We're still missing critical pieces. If we escalate this to the FBI now, and they leak the information, the entire operation could disband. We need something concrete, something that ensures their downfall." Their discussion was interrupted by Rex, who abruptly stood up from beside Daniel. The dog's ears perked as he moved towards the door. "What's wrong, boy?" Daniel asked, following Rex. Rex led Daniel to the far side of the conference room, where a stack of old case files lay scattered. Emily watched as Rex began pawing at a specific box. Daniel opened it, his heart racing. Inside were files from a case closed 5 years prior, a drug bust that had supposedly resulted in a complete roundup of suspects. However, Daniel noticed glaring discrepancies. Names had been erased, and sections of the reports were obscured. "This doesn't add up," he muttered. "These aren't standard redactions. Someone altered these files." Emily leaned over his shoulder. "Look at this." She pointed to a handwritten note at the bottom of one report. It was Lieutenant Donovan's signature. The drug bust had been the perfect facade, but the evidence suggested the operation was a diversion to eliminate competitors in the drug trade while protecting certain criminals who were bribing the department. Daniel clenched his fists. "They were manipulating both sides," he said, his voice edged with anger. "And they destroyed honest officers' lives to achieve it." As they continued to sift through the files, Daniel's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You're digging too deep. Stop or you'll regret it." He stared at the message for a moment before showing it to Emily. She looked up, her face pale but resolute. "They're frightened," she stated. "It means we're getting close." Daniel glanced at Rex, who sat calmly by his side, ready for whatever came next. "Let them come," he declared. "We won't stop now." The message sent a shiver down his spine. It wasn't a vague threat. It was a direct warning. He showed it to Emily, who leaned over the desk, her expression grim. "This isn't a random warning," she said quietly. "They know exactly what we're working on." "They're monitoring us," she added, the gravity of their situation sinking in. As the rest of the team departed for the night, Daniel and Emily remained, determined to uncover the missing link. Rex lay by Daniel's feet, his ears twitching occasionally as he rested. "We're close, but we still need the key piece," Emily said, sifting through the files. She pointed to a document Daniel hadn't noticed. "Look at this." Every major bribe and erased report points back to one name, AR. They're the puppeteers behind this. Daniel's eyes narrowed as he examined the initials AR. They've concealed themselves for too long, but if we locate them, the entire operation will collapse. Suddenly, Rex stood up, his body tense. His ears pricked forward, and he emitted a low growl. Daniel looked down, alarmed. "What is it, boy?" he asked, but before Emily could respond, The lights in the conference room flickered and then went out entirely. Darkness enveloped the room. Emily froze, her hand instinctively reaching for her weapon. "That's not a power outage," she said, her voice steady. The sound of shattering glass shattered the silence, followed by the unmistakable footsteps outside the door. Daniel's heart raced as adrenaline surged through him. He signaled for Emily to take cover. "We're not alone," he whispered. Rex crouched low, his growl deepening as his sharp eyes fixed on the doorway. Whoever had sent the text wasn't bluffing. They had come to halt the investigation. The footsteps grew louder, approaching steadily. Daniel tightened his grip on his weapon, his mind racing with possible scenarios. "Stay close," Rex whispered. Emily met his gaze, her expression determined. "Whatever happens," she declared, "we won't let them win." As the door creaked open, Rex lunged forward, his instincts honed and ready. Daniel steadied his aim, prepared for whatever threat was about to enter. They were under attack, and the battle to uncover the truth had just escalated to a deadly level. The door burst open, and chaos ensued instantly. A shadowy figure stepped into the room, weapon drawn. Before they could react, Rex sprang with incredible speed, clamping his jaws onto the intruder's arm. The man let out a guttural scream, dropping his weapon as he struggled to free himself from the dog. Daniel didn't hesitate. He kicked the weapon away and aimed his gun at the second figure now rushing through the doorway. "Don't move," Daniel commanded, his voice slicing through the chaos. The second intruder froze, hands raised, but their posture indicated they were waiting for the right moment to strike. Behind him, Emily took cover, calling for backup over her radio, her voice steady yet urgent. Rex maintained his hold on the first man, growling low as the intruder continued to struggle. "Call him off," Emily urged in panic. The man panicked, but Daniel stepped forward, his gun unwavering. "Call them off first," he ordered, gesturing toward the approaching figures outside. He could hear more footsteps echoing down the hall, heavy and deliberate. Whoever these individuals were, they weren't here to negotiate. The man didn't respond, but before Daniel could press further, a deafening sound filled the air. Tear gas canisters were thrown into the room. Thick, acrid smoke began to permeate the space, causing their eyes and throats to burn. "We're out of time," Emily shouted, grabbing the files they had been working on. "We need to move." Daniel signaled sharply, and Rex immediately released his hold on the man's arm, retreating to Daniel's side. The team moved swiftly, ducking low to evade the gas as they made their way toward the emergency exit at the back of the room. Gunfire erupted behind them, bullets ricocheting off walls and furniture. Daniel felt his pulse pounding as he provided cover for Emily and Rex, firing back to slow their pursuers. Bursting through the exit, they found themselves in the dark alley behind the building. Emily clutched the files to her chest, gasping for air. "We can't return to the precinct," she panted. "They've compromised everything. They'll be waiting for us." Daniel nodded, his mind racing. Whoever AR was, they were playing for keeps. But looking down at Rex, who stood beside him, panting but steadfast, Daniel felt a surge of determination. "Then we'll finish this on our terms," he declared. "We're not running anymore." The safe house was unnervingly quiet. Daniel, Emily, and Rex had retreated there after narrowly escaping the attack at the precinct. The small cabin, nestled deep within the woods, served as their last refuge. Spread across the wooden table before them were the files Emily had managed to secure. They contained everything needed to expose the network, transaction records, names, and connections to AR, the enigmatic figure behind it all. Emily flipped through the files, her fingers trembling slightly.
"This is it," she said.
"If we can get this to the press or federal investigators, they won't be able to suppress it. The entire operation will collapse." Daniel nodded, but his eyes remained fixed on the window, scanning the tree line. He knew it wasn't over. Whoever had attacked them wouldn't cease until they were silenced. Suddenly, Rex's ears perked up, and he let out a low growl, his body tensing. Daniel froze, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. "They found us," he whispered. Emily looked up, her face pale but resolute.
"How?"
"We've been cautious." Daniel shook his head. It doesn't matter, they're here. The first shot shattered the stillness, breaking through the cabin's window. Glass sprayed across the room as Daniel shoved Emily behind the table for cover. Rex barked furiously, standing his ground beside Daniel. More shots rang out as the attackers closed in. Daniel took a deep breath, adrenaline coursing through him. "Stay down," he instructed Emily. "Rex and I will hold them off." He and Rex moved in perfect harmony as the attackers forced their way through the front door. Daniel fired, taking down one of the intruders. Rex lunged at another, his powerful jaws bringing the man to the ground, but the attackers kept coming. Emily crawled toward the files, grabbing the most critical documents and stuffing them into a bag. "Daniel," she shouted over the gunfire. "We need to get these out of here now." Daniel nodded, his expression grim.
Go.
"Rex, and I will cover you." Emily hesitated for a split second before slipping out the back door, disappearing into the darkness with the evidence in hand. Daniel and Rex held their ground, fending off the attackers with every ounce of strength they possessed. Just as the last intruder fell, sirens echoed in the distance. Backup had finally arrived. Days later, the story broke nationwide. Emily had delivered the files to a trusted journalist, and the ensuing exposé brought the entire network crashing down. Arrests were made at every level, from corrupt officers to AR himself, revealed to be a powerful local politician who had been using the police department as his personal enforcers. Daniel was hailed as a hero, though he modestly dismissed the attention. Standing on his porch, he watched Rex play in the yard. The loyal dog had saved him countless times, and their bond had become unbreakable. "We did it, Rex," Daniel said softly, kneeling to scratch behind Rex's ears. "It's over." Rex wagged his tail, leaning into Daniel's touch, his sharp eyes calm for the first time in weeks. For Daniel, it wasn't just the end of a battle, it was the beginning of a new chapter. He had fought for justice, not only for himself, but for the people who had been silenced and betrayed. As he watched Rex chase after a ball in the golden light of the setting sun, he knew they had earned this moment of peace. What an amazing story, right? If it moved you, send a super sticker. Click the icon below the video, choose your favorite sticker set, select the amount, and confirm your support. It helps us share more heartfelt stories. Thank you for watching.
Disclaimer: this channel does not support or tolerate any form of discrimination, racism, prejudice, or violation of human rights. The stories presented here are original and created by the author with the aim of promoting reflection, awareness, and dialogue. All content is developed with respect for diversity and the dignity of all people.